Today's show brought to you by redcon1.com. That's right. Click the link at the bottom of the podcast app in which you are listening to this on. Check them out. Use promo code T20Quartermiss. That's right. redcon1.com.
There's nothing special about being American. None of you can define for me what an American is.
I am the nation. I was born on July 4th, 1776, and the Declaration of Independence is my birth certificate. The bloodlines of the world run in my veins because I offered freedom to the oppressed. I am many things and many people. I am the nation. I am 200 million living souls and the ghost of millions who have lived and died for me. I am Nathan Hale and Paul Revere. I stood at Lexington and fired the shot heard round the world. I'm Washington, Jefferson, Patrick Henry. I'm John Paul Jones, the Green Mountain Boys, Davy Crockett. I'm Lee.
Coming to you from the DTOM Studios in the free state of Florida, sponsored by Maker's Mark Bourbon, this is Don't Tread on Merica. Guys, today is Wednesday, July 16, 2025. I say alrighty because this is actually the second take. I have to start over because I had a fucking computer problem just as I got started. Anyway, let's jump into it, guys. Okay, I got a show for you today that's gonna probably piss a few of you guys off, and it is what it is because what I have to say today has to be said. So please, we're gonna talk about the Epstein files, and I'm asking the question: did the Biden DOJ torch the truth? Or is there something else going on here? Okay? So a couple things, guys. Please make sure, whatever podcast app you're listening to this on, you're following the show, you're subscribed. Make sure you share this with your friends. And I'm going to be all over the place today, guys. So please stick with me. I know I wasn't here Monday. And I was sick. Okay? I'm doing this show for free. I don't get paid. I needed to relax. As you can tell by my voice, I'm still a little sick. So you're probably going to hear a lot of coughing, a lot of sniffling. It is what it is. I'm drinking some whiskey. We're going to see if we can get through this, okay? If you want to help me out, if you want to help the show out, guys, go to the DTOM Store. Get you some show merch, okay? Those are the little things you can do to help the show. I'm not taking any money from that. I'm giving that to Tunnels and Towers. You buy a t-shirt, buy a license plate frame, whatever. I know I was supposed to work on a new t-shirt with a new design I have. I'm telling you, I was sick all weekend, okay? Today's the first day I even kind of feel like doing a show. I really don't even feel like doing a show, but I feel like I had to do a show. Thus, the reason I am here with you guys today. So please make sure that you are ready to rock and roll. We're going to get this show started here in just a second, okay? Because, you know, it's what I do. It's what I do. You're welcome. A little bit of damn Yankees for you to get things started. Help me get into the mood to get into this. Help get my voice prepared. Some damn Yankees. Don't tread on me. The DTOM version. Express written permission from one Ted Theodore Nugent. I want you guys to sing along. I want you to crank it up. Rip the knob off. We'll get to the chorus and we'll talk some more. Okay, you guys ready? Let's go. Merica. Merica. Come on, sing along. Don't you tread on Merica, guys. Welcome to another episode of Don't Tread on Merica, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the shadows, peeling back the layers of deception to uncover what they don't want you to know. Of course, I am your host, Donq, and today we're tackling one of the most explosive conspiracy theories circulating right now in 2025. Did the Biden Department of Justice deliberately destroy incriminating documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein and his criminal empire? And if so, is this why the Trump DOJ, under Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, is this why they are now saying there's no there there? Well, buckle up, because we're going in deep over 3 hours. No, I don't know how long we're going to go. Hopefully not longer than an hour, because I got to calm down and go to bed. And we're going to get into the web of power, the cover-ups, and the global elites, guys. Quick reminder before we get started. I'm here to question, to speculate, and to think critically. I'm not claiming to have all the answers, and you shouldn't take everything I say as the gospel. But the pieces of this puzzle are scattered, and it's my job to put them together. We'll look at the timeline, the players, and the eerie silence from certain corners of the political world. Why aren't Democrats screaming about this? Could it be because they're the real culprits? World politicians, billionaires, maybe even royalty are being shielded by this shadowy cabal. What's the theory that we're diving into today? So please grab you a drink. I got me a whiskey here with a little bit of honey and some cinnamon in it. Help with the voice and the throat and everything. And settle in. We're going to unravel this thing. We've got a lot to cover, and I promise you it's going to be a wild ride, so please hang tight. Alright guys, so here's where I'm going to probably piss a few people off. Now, Trump posted this on his Truth Social earlier today. And you may have heard this, maybe you heard him say it, but I'm going to read this here. He goes, the radical left Democrats have hit pay dirt again. Just like the fake, full, discredited Steele dossier, the lying 51 intelligence agency agents, and the laptop from hell, which the Democrats swore came from Russia. And even the Russia scam itself. A totally fake and made-up story used in order to hide crooked Hillary Clinton's big loss in 2016 presidential election. These scams and hoaxes are all the Democrats are good at. It's all they have. They're no good at governing, no good at policy, and no good at picking winning candidates. Also, unlike Republicans, they do stick together. Their new scam was that what we will forever call the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let me pause this because I know it's going to go to commercial. And my past supporters have bought into this bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. They haven't learned their lesson and probably never will. Even after being conned by lunatic left for 8 long years, I have more success in 6 months than perhaps any president in our country's history. And all these people want to talk about, with strong prodding by the fake news and the success-starved Dems, is the Jeffrey Epstein hoax. Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success, because I don't want their fake support anymore. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. Now, here's where I have a problem with that. My problem with that is this. Back when Trump was campaigning for president, this was back in September of last year, he was on an interview on Fox News, and this is what he had to say about that.
This interview is going really fast, and I know we have like a bunch of other questions.
Okay.
So can we
Yes.
kind of go that, and we'll kind of keep our answers
Sure.
short so we can get to it. Okay, so I'm going to start with this one. Americans have lost a lot of trust in institutions, and I think there's been a lot of discussion, especially online and especially with young people. How do we rebuild that trust in institutions? The CIA.
Now,
the
notice
FBI,
you're talking about trust
all
in
those
institutions, in the FBI and the DOJ,
Some people
right?
think
This is the question.
that one way to build trust is to declassify things that everyone's talking about. I know you talked earlier about it. I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. So if you were president, would you declassify, you can answer yes or no to these. Would you declassify the 9/11 files?
Yeah.
Still haven't.
Would you declassify JFK files?
Yeah.
Still haven't.
Would
I
you,
did a lot of it.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff with that whole world. But I think I would, or at least
Do you think that would restore trust? Help restore trust?
Yeah, I don't know about Epstein so much as I do the others. Certainly about the way he died. It would be interesting to find out what happened there because that was a weird situation and the cameras didn't happen to be working, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I'd go a long way toward that one. The other stuff I would definitely do the January 6th because, beyond all of them, because what happened. How about the Unselect Committee? They had
All right, so let's get past that. The fact of even the J6 stuff, they still never did, still hasn't done. But even in that question, he never definitively said that he was going to release the Epstein stuff, but he did hint to it. Now, most people that followed Trump and that subscribed to everything believed that this was part and parcel to everything cool that he was going to do. And I think in his answer to the question, would he declassify the Epstein stuff, he kind of danced around and said, there's, partly I don't want to hurt people that are involved in So lately we've been hearing about that. And this is what's confusing to someone like myself. You have a person who Trump, Bondi, all of these people who said all of these things. Trump knows what's in those files, what's on the list, who's on the list, whether he's on the list, his people are on the list, his donors are on the list. I don't know. My theory is something bigger than that. I don't think that Trump necessarily is on the list, and that's what a lot of people are alluding to, that he's on the list. That's why he doesn't want this shown, and that's the whole reason for this, is because he discovered he was on the list. If you guys don't think that he's already seen this stuff 5 years ago, then you're insane. Okay? Epstein was arrested during the Trump administration, the first one. He was arrested in July of 19. He subsequently killed himself. If you're watching this on Rumble, DontTreadonMericaTV, you can see the sarcasm. In August of 19. Trump was still president for another year and a half. Okay? So it's not like this happened at the end of his presidency and he didn't get to see anything. So to sit here and say that the DOJ under the first Trump administration, and even Trump himself, didn't already know who, what, when, where, how, is insane. I think a lot of us were skeptical under the suspicions of how Epstein died. And for 5 years, 5.5 years, all of us have been clamoring for this list. We would get the flight logs and, look at these people on the flight logs. And I'll be the first to say, okay, we've talked about Epstein probably more than most shows out there. I don't want to sit here and convict anybody that was on that flight log, because that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I don't want to say it doesn't mean anything, period, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Because people probably were involved with Jeffrey Epstein before they realized who he was, or more so what he was about. Okay? So there is that aspect of it. You have a situation where so I think in that case, as far as that list is concerned, now there's probably people on a list that, like, when the way they make it sound is, or the way Trump even made it sound there, I don't want to release this list because there might be, and he said this recently, that there's people that may have been involved with him, but not in this aspect of things, the way we all assume what we're thinking of a list. And I think it's more about Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, more so than just Jeffrey Epstein, the businessman. Okay, because what I mean by that is, if you hold on a second. If you are a business person, okay, and you don't really know who Jeffrey Epstein is in 2004, prior to any of his arrests, you may have been involved with him on a business standpoint, okay? So you may be on a business list, okay? That's where I think Ghislaine Maxwell, her involvement with Epstein's and that list is more important, because she was arrested and convicted in 21 on sex trafficking. Now, a lot of the speculation, because we don't even know the details of that. It's a broad brush. We know that she was arrested because of that. But we don't know she was arrested for sex trafficking these people, women A through Z. And then why were those women trafficked? And we never got to hear any testimony from some of those women. And the couple of women that did speak out are no longer with us, whether they committed suicide or other reasons. But we know that there are some names that were involved in Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell's torrid history in the bad sense. So for him to sit there and say, you know, well, maybe we'll do this and maybe we'll do that, but we don't want to hurt innocent people, that's all fine and dandy. I understand that. But you could still release a list. You could still release this stuff. And maybe even give the context. Oh, Bob Johnson was involved with Epstein because in 2002, they were involved in a merger, blah, 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 whatever. I think it's more about the Ghislaine Maxwell aspect of it. But to just dismiss it. And then I was talking with Chris today. And my theory is based around Israel. Whether we're talking Barack over there, or if we're talking about Netanyahu, or people that you may not even know their names. And which is going to lead me to the show I'm doing Friday of something that just happened today in Syria, which, by the way, no one's really talking about, okay? Because Israel just bombed the shit out of Syria. Literally 5 hours before I'm recording this show. You probably haven't heard of it. You probably won't hear of it. You're going to hear about it Friday because I got some ideas. But I can't help but question why this was such a hot button topic, not just for Trump, but for Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino. 3 people that are closest to this, probably more so than Trump, that all of a sudden, nothing there. And then, like Trump even said, the cameras didn't work, but then all of a sudden we have video footage. So you have to ask the question, is the video footage even real that we did see? Because, remember, 5 years ago, under the Trump administration, that video footage didn't exist. The cameras were down, remember? But now the cameras are working. So, my theory today is going to dive into what happened over the past 5 years. And I talked about this the other day. If there's no there, what happened to the evidence? You obviously arrested this guy, had him in prison with the possibility of life in prison for whatever he did. But then there's no evidence. So what was he arrested for? Why is Ghislaine Maxwell still in jail? And believe me, I'm not lobbying for anyone's release. But you can't help but ask the question, what has this all been about? If there's no there, what is this all about? This isn't about child pornography. It's not just about child pornography. There's got to be something there. Whether he killed himself, was murdered, don't know, don't care. Okay? My question is, why was he there in the first place? If there's no there, as you guys say, and even if it was, and I'm not trying to dismiss child pornography, but if that was all, is that enough for somebody to kill themselves over? Okay? So just stick with me here. Let's set the stage here, guys. Jeffrey Epstein, financier, convicted sex offender back in 2008, who was also let off because of these special connections, right? A man who rubbed elbows with the most powerful people on the planet. His death in 2019, officially ruled a suicide, sparked endless speculation. Was he murdered to keep him quiet? Did he have a client list naming high-profile figures involved in his sex trafficking ring? For years, conspiracy theorists, including some prominent voices on the right, hyped the idea that Epstein's files held explosive secrets. Fast forward to 2025, and the Trump DOJ releases a memo saying essentially, sorry folks, nothing to see here. No client list, no blackmail evidence, just a dead end. And that's another thing, thinking about it. This was a person, Jeffrey Epstein, who was camered up. Every property he owned was camered up. He kept extensive lists, flight logs, visiting, meeting notes. He kept all this. I can't help but that if my speculation as to why he was camered up everywhere, every single property he had, high level surveillance. He didn't have ring doorbells at the front. He was camered up inside and out. You don't do those types of things. You don't constantly keep lists, so to speak, of everything you do, video evidence of everything that you and whoever is involved with you do, to not hold something over somebody's head. So if you were indeed sex trafficking, which he was being convicted of, Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of, you cannot tell me for a second there's not a list saying that Ghislaine Maxwell got Jane Doe for Bill Gates, for Prince Andrews, for whoever. They didn't just randomly sex traffic to sex traffic. There had to be a reason why, because I would assume the whole point of sex trafficking young females, or assuming they were just females, were for somebody. Because where are you trafficking to? What's the point? There's got to be an end game. You have to be getting these individuals for someone or something. You're not just trafficking them. They're not out on the streets, turning tricks just for shits and giggles, right? There had to be a reason. And you know damn well he kept records of those reasons. Not necessarily to keep himself out of trouble, because I think even people that know they're doing things wrong know they're doing them wrong, but they're going to keep track of who they're doing wrong for. That way, if I'm going down, you're going down. And I feel like that's kind of why he's no longer with us, because he knew way too much. Okay? So, but here's where it gets juicy. Some folks on Twitter are whispering that the reasons there's nothing left is because the Biden DOJ under Merrick Garland shredded, deleted, or otherwise made those files disappear right after the 2020 election. And the kicker, the silence from Democrats suggests that they are in on it, or at least okay with it. Because the real players they're protecting aren't just American politicians, but global elites. And I think that's the key. So today we're going to break this down. The timeline of the Epstein case, what we know about the documents, the Biden DOJ's actions, the Trump DOJ's response, and why the Democrats' silence is raising eyebrows. We'll also explore the bigger picture. Are we looking at a global cover-up? And if so, who's pulling those strings? So, before we dive in, a quick heads up. We're going to do a couple commercial breaks. I'm going to keep them short and sweet. Stick with me because you don't want to miss what's coming. And let's start with the Epstein saga itself. So let's go back to the beginning, or at least as far back as we need to understand the mess. Jeffrey Epstein was a man of immense wealth and influence. He had private jets, a private island, Little St. James, aka Pedophile Island, to some, and the connections to everyone from Bill Clinton to Prince Andrews, and yes, even Donald Trump. His 2008 conviction in Florida for soliciting prostitution from a minor was just the tip of the iceberg. By 2019, he was arrested again, this time on federal sex trafficking of minors. And then on August 10th of 2019, he was found dead in his cell in Metropolitan Correctional Facility in New York. The official story, suicide by hanging. But the circumstances, broken cameras, guards not checking in on him, a missing minute of the surveillance footage, lit a match on the conspiracy community. Was Epstein killed to protect his powerful friends? Did he have a black book or a client list that could bring down governments? For years, people speculated about what was in his files. Flight logs, videos, hard drives, maybe even recordings of illicit acts. And that's another point. Sorry about the sniffling, guys. It is what it is. If we know they raided all these places, they have all this documentation, they have videos. There's plenty of theirs there. And I think that's what's pissing a lot of us off, is we don't need to know every meeting that this guy took with every person he took if it was just a legitimate meeting. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, Epstein wasn't necessarily in the business of prostitution and trafficking minors. I think that was a side hustle to get deals done. Okay? I'd be willing to bet there's plenty of people out there that met with Epstein, what they thought was a legitimate meeting, that may have tried to turn another direction. But I guess my biggest question is, if you are on the list, if you are on one of his lists, if you're on his flight log, if you had a legitimate meeting with Epstein and there was no there, why aren't those individuals speaking up? Because we know Epstein gained immense wealth somehow. There is plenty of there, but for them just to dismiss it like that, it's driving me crazy. And when it comes to politicians more so than movie stars and music people, I'm more focused on the politicians aspects of it and the world elites. If that makes any sense. That's what I'm focusing on. I don't care about the movie stars. I mean, yeah, it's bad enough, but that doesn't mean anything. I'm more worried about the people that are making the world turn. Okay? So fast forward to 2020. Biden wins the election. Merrick Garland becomes Attorney General in March of 21. The DOJ under Garland inherits the Epstein case, which by then is a hot potato. Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, is convicted in 21 for sex trafficking, but the public still clamors for more. Specifically, for that elusive client list. Posts on Twitter from 20 to 24 are filled with claims that the Biden DOJ was still on the treasure trove of evidence. Oh, crap. Where am I at? Okay, some even allege that the FBI under Director Christopher Wray seized materials from Epstein's properties. His Manhattan townhouse, his Palm Beach estate, his island, and then conveniently lost or destroyed them. Here's where the conspiracy theory kicks in. According to some voices on X, right after Biden's election, the DOJ went into cleanup mode. One post from February of 25 claims people will be very disappointed because those Epstein files have been destroyed by Christopher Wray and Merrick Garland. It is done on purpose to protect the powerful people involved. Another user posted in July of 25 says Biden's DOJ destroyed all the Epstein's evidence right after the election. They delivered a bunch of useless papers and junk to Bondi. And that's something that's interesting. If Trump was involved in Epstein in a bad way, with everything that Biden's people, the DOJ and whoever, did to Trump to keep him from running for president, you don't think if there was a Trump thing there that he would not have been, that would have came out? The fact that this evidence possibly was destroyed. I'm going to have to blow my nose. Hold on, guys. you're watching this on Rumble, you just caught a show. Anyway, if you understand what I'm saying, but if there was powerful world elites, whether politicians, whether presidents or whatever, prime ministers of other countries were involved, this is a cover-up. Like I said, if Trump was involved in this Epstein thing in a bad way, we would have known. They wouldn't have covered that up. They went after Trump for all this other bullshit. They would have nailed him to the cross with that. So obviously, this is just my speculation. These are unverified claims. There's no concrete evidence, at least not public, that the Biden DOJ systematically destroyed Epstein's files. But the theory gains traction because of the timing. The Biden administration had 4 years to release something, anything, about Epstein's connections. Instead, we got radio silence. No major indictments of high-profile figures. No bombshell document dumps. Just a slow drip of already public court filings. So let's consider the possibility. Could the DOJ have destroyed evidence? It's not unheard of for government agencies to quote-unquote lose sensitive materials. Look at the CIA's destruction of torture tapes in 2005, or the FBI's mishandling of evidence in high-profile cases. If Epstein's files contain names of powerful people, Democrats, Republicans, global leaders, there'd be motive to make them disappear. And the Biden DOJ, led by Garland, a career establishment figure, would have the means to do it quietly. But here's the flip side. Destroying evidence on that scale would require coordination, secrecy, and a lot of people keeping their mouths shut. The FBI raided Epstein's properties in 2019 before Biden took office. Any destruction would have started under Trump's DOJ, led by Bill Barr. So why point the finger at Biden alone? That's where the theory starts to wobble. Unless you believe the quote-unquote deep state transcends administration, which honestly isn't a huge stretch for some of us. So let's hold that thought for just a second, because we're about to hit our first commercial break. Get that out of the way, because that's bound to fuck me up down the road here. Just it needs to move quicker. I pressed play. I really did. Jesus Christ. When we come back, we'll dive into the Trump DOJ's role and why there's no there statement has sparked such firestorm. So please, stay with me. All right, guys. When you're digging into conspiracies like this, you need to stay secure online. NordVPN hides your IP, encrypts your data, and keeps your searches private. Whether you're browsing X or researching Epstein's connections, NordVPN has you covered. Get 70% off your subscription at NordVPN.com, promo code DTOM. Please, stay safe out there, guys. We'll be back in just a second. All right, guys, welcome back. We're diving into the heart of this conspiracy theory. Why the Trump DOJ, specifically Bondi, Patel, and Bongino, are saying there's nothing left to find in the Epstein case. On July 7th of 25, the DOJ and FBI released a 2-page memo that dropped a bomb on the conspiracy world. It said, quote, "This systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions." The memo also confirmed Epstein's death as suicide, backed by 10 hours of surveillance video from his jail cell. But here's the catch. There's a missing minute on that video, right around midnight. The DOJ claims it's just a glitch from an old system resetting. Convenient, right? That missing minute has conspiracy theorists on Twitter screaming cover up. And honestly, I get why. A missing minute in the most scrutinized jail footage in history. That's fuel for fire. Not to mention the fact that after he committed suicide, we were told by Bill Barr, by Trump, by a lot of these individuals that the system malfunctioned. There was no recordings. So let's talk about the players. Pam Bondi, Trump's attorney general, came into office promising transparency. In February 25, she went on Fox and said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review. When asked about the Epstein client list, she even orchestrated a PR stunt, inviting right-wing influencers to the White House to show off binders labeled Epstein Files Phase 1. But those binders, mostly public court documents, no bombshells, no names, just a big letdown. Then you've got Kash Patel, the FBI director, and Dan Bongino, his deputy. Both are former media personalities who built their brands on questioning the establishment. Bongino on his podcast in 23 called the Epstein client list a huge deal that would rock the Democrat Party. Patel also pushed for the FBI to release everything, but now, in office, they're singing a different tune. The memo they signed off on says there's no list, no blackmail, no nothing. So what happened? The conspiracy theory says that Biden's DOJ handed them a pile of nothing. One X post from July of 25 claims the Epstein files were scrubbed by the Biden's DOJ and FBI, cleaned or destroyed during the raid. They never made it into evidence, another says. Biden's corrupt DOJ cleaned up all the evidence to protect the Clintons, Bill Gates, and other rich Dem donors. And I think it's more than that, guys. But let's break this down. If Biden's DOJ destroyed the files, it would explain why Bondi, Patel, and Bongino are coming up empty. They get into office expecting a treasure trove and instead find a bunch of redacted documents and useless junk. Bondi herself hinted at this, saying the FBI was withholding thousands of pages and that a truckload of evidence arrived from New York, implying she didn't have it all to begin with. But here's where it gets messy. If those files were destroyed, why did Bondi hype up a client list in February? Was she misled by bad intel, or was she playing to the MAGA base? Only to realize later there was nothing to deliver. And why are Patel and Bongino, who were all about exposing the deep state, now backing this memo? Some on Twitter are calling them sellouts, saying they've been taken hostage by the deep state consensus. Others like Laura Loomer are even claiming Bongino's considering resigning over Bondi's handling of the case. And here's another point to that. If Bondi and Patel and them felt like there was something there, and then were giving a bunch of redacted or nothing files, then why didn't they say that? Why did they just come out and say there's nothing there? Why didn't they say, well, we were handed a bunch of nothing. We were handed redacted files or scrub files or this, that, and the other thing. Because you got to think, a lot of this was done under Trump's first term. So why aren't you talking to Bill Barr? Why aren't you talking to, well, the director of the FBI was Christopher Wray, which was also under Biden. But why aren't you talking to these people? The people that were involved the first time under Trump's DOJ. And this is where I get the sellout quote from of those three individuals, because if I, Don Q, was put in the role of whatever under the Trump administration, promising everybody to release this stuff that all of us believe to be true, I don't think I could come out and say, oh, no, my bad, there's nothing there. If I felt like that the Biden DOJ or whoever trashed all this stuff, I would let it be known. And I can't even sit here and say that the Trump DOJ under the first term destroyed this evidence, because Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested under the Biden DOJ's turn. So if there was a bunch of redacted or tossed footage or files from that, they would have said something. So it begs the question, is there, which is not a stretch, is there no such thing as a Republican or Democratic Party, just a uniparty that's all playing ball, and it's like professional wrestling, essentially. You have Hulk Hogan over here arguing with Andre the Giant. It's just a big nothing burger because in the grand scheme of things, they're all friends backstage. So I'm not saying that these individuals are sellouts, but the optics aren't great. These are people who built their careers on promising to expose the truth, and now they're saying, sorry, nothing to see. It's no wonder the MAGA base, who Trump just demonized earlier today, is livid. Posts on Twitter are calling for this a betrayal and demanding Bondi's resignation. Even Musk, no stranger to stirring the pot, suggested Trump himself may be on the files. And this is where I say I don't believe that. I'm not sitting there saying, no, there's no way Trump would do that. I feel that if Trump was on these files, if there was evidence of Trump doing anything illicit, we would know about it. You know what I'm saying? They didn't want this guy to be president for whatever reason. If there was a lot of theirs as far as Trump is concerned, we would have known. That would have, if nothing else, that would have gotten released. So, if the Biden DOJ did destroy evidence, how would they do it? The FBI raided Epstein properties in 2019 under Trump's DOJ. Any evidence, hard drives, DVDs, documents would have been cataloged and stored. To destroy it, you would need insiders willing to break the chain of custody protocols, delete digital backups, and shred physical copies. Possible? Sure. Likely? That's where we need to be careful without whistleblowers or leaked memos. It's obviously all speculation. But the theory doesn't end there. The real bombshell is why the files might have been destroyed. And that brings us to the global elite angle, which we'll dive into after our next break. So please, hang tight. Guys, it's getting spicy. Hang tight. All right. Ready for a better time? Meet Alp nicotine pouches, crafted by real users, not boardroom suits. Our perfectly moist pouches deliver bold flavors like chilled mint, mountain wintergreen, and tropical fruit with a smooth nicotine kick. 3, 6, and 9 milligram strengths. Say goodbye to dry, flavorless pouches. Alp gives you more. 20 pouches per tin. Tobacco-free and designed for freedom and satisfaction anywhere, anytime. Plus, every purchase supports real causes like tree planting and service dog rehabilitation. Join the movement. Head to outpouch.com and /DTOM to get you 10% off your first purchase. That's outpouch.com /DTOM because you deserve a nicotine experience that's bold, fresh, and unapologetically better. Consumers 21 and over. Contains nicotine, an addictive chemical, not for use by minors, pregnant, or breastfeeding women, or those with heart conditions. Consult a healthcare professional before use. Keep away from children and pet. And please, buy some. All right, we're back. And we've been digging into the theory that the Biden's DOJ destroyed Jeffrey Epstein's incriminating files, leaving the Trump DOJ with nothing but crumbs. But now let's zoom out to the bigger picture. Who are they protecting? The conspiracy theory doesn't stop at American politicians. It points to a global network of elites, world leaders, CEOs, maybe even royalty, who are allegedly entangled in Epstein's web. And here's the kicker. The eerie silence from Democrats suggests they're either complicit or too scared to touch it. Epstein wasn't just a rich guy with a creepy island. He was a connector, a fixer for the ultra-powerful. His flight logs show names like Clinton, who flew on the Lolita Express multiple times, and Prince Andrew, who settled lawsuits with one of Epstein's victims. Then there's the speculation about tech moguls, foreign dignitaries, and even intelligence agencies. Some theories claim that Epstein was working for Mossad and or the CIA, collecting blackmail material to control global players. Crazy, maybe. But Epstein's connections were real, and his death only deepened the suspicion. So let's talk about the Democrats' silence. If the Trump DOJ is saying there's no there, you would expect Democrats to jump on that, right? Call it a cover-up, accuse Trump of protecting his own allies. After all, Trump and Epstein were buddies back in the day, but instead, crickets. Not a peep from the DNC, no fiery op-eds, no Twitter posts from progressive influencers demanding the files. Why? The conspiracy theory says it's because the real culprits aren't just American Democrats or Republicans. They're global elites who transcend party lines. One post on Twitter from July of 25 claims that Biden's DOJ cleaned up all the evidence to protect the Clintons, Bill Gates, and other rich Dem donors who frequently visited Epstein Island. But it's not just Democrats. The theory suggests a bipartisan, or rather nonpartisan, effort to shield the world's most powerful. Think about it. If Epstein's files named heads of state, corporate titans, or even members of royal families, releasing them could destabilize economies, governments, maybe even entire alliances. So let's play devil's advocate. If the files were destroyed to protect global elites, why would the Biden DOJ take that risk? They are handling a political, or they'd be handing a political weapon to Trump's team, who could point fingers and say, look, they covered it up. But maybe that's the point. Create enough chaos and mistrust that no one knows what's true. Or maybe the files were so explosive that both sides agreed to bury them. Remember, Trump himself has ties to Epstein. He's in the flight logs too. When asked about the files in July, he snapped. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. Sounds like someone who wants to move on. Here's another angle. Court-ordered seals. The DOJ memo said much of Epstein's materials under seal to protect victims. Fair enough. Nobody wants to hurt the survivors. But seals can also be convenient excuses to hide names. If a judge, maybe one with ties to the powerful figures, slaps a seal on those files, they're untouchable without a major legal fight. And who's going to fight it? Not the Democrats, apparently. Now let's talk about the infighting in Trump's camp. Dan Bongino, the deputy FBI director, is reportedly out of control, furious over Bondi's handling of the memo. Sources say he clashed with her at a White House meeting, accusing her of hyping expectations only to deliver nothing. Some even claim he's considering resigning. Meanwhile, Kash Patel is staying loyal to Trump, tweeting the conspiracy theories aren't true. Never have been. But he was one of the biggest voices in that. But the MAGA base isn't buying it. Influencers like Donq, Laura Loomer, and Alex Jones are calling it a deep state betrayal. And it brings us to a critical question. If the files were destroyed, who benefits? The obvious answer is the elites named in them. But it's also possible the Biden DOJ didn't destroy anything. And the Trump DOJ is using that as an excuse to avoid releasing files that may implicate their allies. Or maybe there was never a client list, just a myth that grew out of control. The truth is, we don't know. And that's what makes this so maddening. One last thought before we get to our final break. The global elite theory isn't just about Epstein. It ties into a broader conspiracy about power structures. Think Bilderberg, Davos, even the World Economic Forum. If Epstein was a cog in a larger machine, his files might have been key to exposing it. And if those files are gone, we may never know the full scope. Something to wrap your head around, because I'm all over the place with this. All right, guys, let's take another quick break. This last one, and we'll come back. We'll wrap this thing up with some final thoughts on what this means for the future. All right, guys. Power up your game with W Energy. Our clean, sugar-free energy drink delivers laser focus and sustained energy without the jitters or crash. With 10 plus unique flavors, there's a W for every vibe. Perfect for gamers, creators, or anyone needing a boost. Use promo code DTOM at checkout. Go to w.gg, save 10% on your order. Stock up, stay sharp, and be better with W Energy. Guys, I made it real simple. All these links are on the podcast app. Just scroll down. You'll see sponsors. You can click on them. It'll take you right to it. Just make sure you use those promo codes, okay? God damn it. What the fuck is going on here? All right, guys. So, what does it all mean? What does it all mean, Basil? Folks, we're into the home stretch here of this episode of Don't Tread on America. We spent a good chunk of time digging into the conspiracy theory that the Biden DOJ destroyed Jeffrey Epstein's incriminating files, leaving the Trump DOJ, Bondi, Patel, and Bongino with nothing but a dead end. We've also explored the idea that this cover-up protects global elites, which might explain why Democrats aren't pushing back. So what's the takeaway? First, let's recap. The theory hinges on a few key points. Epstein files seized in 2019 contain explosive evidence, maybe a client list, and maybe blackmail material. The Biden DOJ under Merrick Garland allegedly destroyed or scrubbed the evidence to protect powerful figures, possibly including Democrats like Bill Clinton or global players like Prince Andrew. The Trump DOJ's 25 memo saying there's no there is a result of this cleanup, leaving Bondi and company with nothing to show. The Democrats' silence suggests they're either complicit or afraid of exposing a larger network of elites. Now, here's where I put my skeptic hat on. The idea of a deliberate cover-up is compelling, but it's light on hard evidence. Posts on Twitter like the one claiming Biden's DOJ destroyed all the Epstein evidence right after the election are passionate but lack documentation. The DOJ memo itself says they reviewed 300 gigabytes of data and found no client list or blackmail evidence. Could that be because the evidence was destroyed? Sure. Could it be because it never existed? Also possible. The missing minute of surveillance video doesn't help. The DOJ's explanation that it's just a system reset sounds plausible, but it's not exactly reassuring when trust in institutions is at an all-time low. And Bondi's flip-flop from hyping the client list to admitting there's nothing smells like either incompetence or intentional misdirection. Then there's the Democrat angle. Their silence could mean they're protecting allies, or it could mean they're just don't see political gain in rehashing Epstein. After all, Trump's ties to Epstein are well documented, so why give him a chance to deflect? But the global elite theory adds another layer. If Epstein's files implicated world leaders, the stakes go beyond U.S. politics. A cover-up of that magnitude would require cooperation across borders, maybe even intelligence agencies. That's where the conspiracy starts to feel like a Tom Clancy novel. But then again, truth is often stranger than fiction. So what's next? The MAGA base is furious, and in the infighting between Bondi and Bongino shows cracks in Trump's team. If Bongino retires, it could signal deeper problems. Meanwhile, calls for transparency aren't going away. Groups like Judicial Watch are suing for the full files, and influencers like Laura Loomer are keeping the pressure on. And here's my take. We may never know the truth. If the files were destroyed, the evidence is gone. If they were never there, we've been chasing a ghost. But the bigger question is about trust. When the powerful tells us there's nothing to see, why should we believe them? Epstein's case exposed a rot in the system. Whether it's the DOJ, the FBI, or global elites, that rot doesn't vanish just because a memo says so. And on that point, back to the video I played, where is the 9/11 files? RFK, JFK, MLK, where are all these where are those files at? Why aren't we hearing those truths? Why aren't we hearing about JFK and stuff, these things that happened 60 years ago, 60 plus years ago? Why aren't we hearing about that stuff? It's because they know what's in these files. They know that our government was complicit in the murdering of a president, a senator, a powerful religious leader. They know that our government, and more importantly, and I'm going to connect the dots to one particular country. That's right, Israel. Because we can talk about 9/11, RFK, JFK, and we can make ties back to the Israeli government. I've talked about the Israeli government's involvement with Epstein and his connections to Mossad. When we say they're covering for, the Democrats are covering for people like Bill Clinton and stuff like that, and Prince Andrews, I don't think that's the case. Prince Andrews was, well, he wasn't convicted, but he was, in a roundabout way, convicted and had to pay Virginia Giuffre millions of dollars. So much in the way OJ was convicted for the murder of his ex-wife, which he wasn't, but he was in a court of public opinion when Ron Brown, whatever his name is, Goldman, when his parents sued and whatever. So it's kind of in that same situation. I honestly feel like there's something more going on there. I don't think, who cares about Bill Clinton and Prince Andrews? We know what kind of people those are. I don't think the Democrats are covering for them. Okay, I think it's past that. I think it's a lot bigger than that. I think there's so much shit that Mossad and the IDF, Israeli government, not necessarily just Netanyahu and them, I'm talking about the Israeli deep state, that they have on so many people, whether it's American politicians, American businessmen, American billionaires, all these people that donate to all these political campaigns on both sides of the aisles. You go back to JFK, and some point the finger to the Israelis as to why our JFK was killed, because of him wanting to have the Israeli fucking shit, I can't think of the name, AIPAC wanted them to register as a foreign agency. Some say that's part of the reason that led to his murder. You look at 9/11, the dancing Israelis. There's a lot of key things that we get involved as a country in foreign skirmishes, and it involves the Israelis. And we can't help but ask the question, why? What the fuck? Why does Israel control so much of this government behind the shadows that so many people don't even realize? What is so great about Israel, the country? Not the people, not the history, not the religion. I could sit here and say this and not be an anti-Semite, because it's not about the Jewish people or the Jewish religion. It's about the fucktards that run that country and consequently kind of run our country. So I want to hear from you guys, truth seekers. What do you think? Did the Biden DOJ torch the memos? I'm all over the place here, guys. Just stick with me. Hang on. So, did they do that? Are the global elites pulling the strings? Head to the website, DontTreadonMerica.com. Hit me up on the Twitter X machine at DonQ1776. And if you want to dig deeper, check out the sources I mentioned. They'll be linked below in the show notes. And keep asking that question, guys, because the show I'm going to bring you guys on Friday is going to kind of bring this all back around with the events that unfolded actually today. And I probably should have did the show on that, even though I just about have it ready. But I wanted to talk about this first, so it'll make the show on Friday, it'll make a little bit more sense in my thought process of the power that the Israeli government holds over the American government and why. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself, and Hopefully my sniffling and sneezing and blowing my nose didn't bother you too much. And if it did, sorry. People get sick, all right? It is what it is. Least I can say, I was here and I tried my best. With that being said, guys, this is Don't Tread on America. I am Don Q. Follow the show on social media, Don't Tread on America, Facebook, Instagram, True Social, and Ticker Talker. Like I said, you want to email me, hit me up, donq@DontTreadonAmerica. Other than that, have a great day. I'll talk to you on Friday. Peace.